Joining us now on the show, we have Assistant Presidential Legal Counsel Attorney Honorio Reyes III, who worked closely with the late Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Enrile. Magandang umaga sa inyo. Welcome to Morning Matters.
Good morning, ma'am.
Kay una-una ho, in what capacity did you get to work with the late Chief Presidential Legal Counsel?
Well, I worked for him as his Presidential Assistant Legal Counsel 2022 and up to September this year. I was also part of the law office, PECA Bar. And then even before that, the family knew him. He worked with my grandfather when my grandfather was the mayor of Tuguegarao. He knows my father, my mom, my uncle, who is also the one of the founders of PECA Bar, Ponce Enrile, Reyes and Manalastas. And after that, I was invited him to be part of his team when the president won in the previous presidential elections.
So you worked with him very recently in his latest role as Chief Presidential Legal Counsel. Very sorry, my condolences sent to you. But how did your office and the palace receive the news of Attorney Enrile's passing? At hanggang kailan ho siya nakapagtrabaho?
Well, yung pagtrabaho kasi, I was not part of the team anymore by September. There was a reorganization, so I could not answer that. But until September, he was still very active. Until September, he was still very active. You could speak to him until last week, according to Yusek Rohel Gatchalian. When we spoke to them, he could still be spoken to last week, up to the very last minutes of his life. He was still very responsive. If there is one thing that you should know with Boss JPE, it was his, well, lahat naman tayo kilala natin yun. He had an exceptional brain. His intelligence was exceptional. So, until the very last moment, unlike anyone else that we knew, we know, si JPE, that was the last to go. Sa atin kasi, pag tumatanda ang Pilipino, tumatanda yung tao, ang unang nawawala po minsan, which is very sad, is hindi na nakakaalala. For him, he was blessed with that, with an intellect and intelligence that is very sharp, that until the very last, he could still speak to people, although he was already sort of intubated, he was still very responsive.
So lahat po ng mga alaala ng nakaraan, inaalala pa niya for the past 101 years.
Well, sa amin kasi, when we came in Malacanang, we came in 2022, he was very active in 2022 and 2023, would come in almost every day. 2022, we were like his grandchildren, that we would have breakfast together, lunch together, and he would speak. Just imagine this scenario, na lahat ng apo nag-dinner at nagla-lunch, tapos nandun yung lolo na nagkikwento. And he would speak for 3 hours, 2 hours, and we were just in awe. Because until that very moment, you would realize that, well, yes, he was still very sharp, like everybody says, and he would discuss things na, just like we were in the law firm, na he would discuss with us, and of course, walang mananalo sa kanya sa discussion or any argument, kasi nga, he's privy to almost everything. His knowledge is personal knowledge. Hindi siya gumagamit na I heard, nakita ko yung ganito. No, he knows things personally and he's privy to those things. So, we had the privilege to listen to him almost every day. And of course, lahat naman kami, we were in awe. Yung pinakamadalas na tanong ng mga tao sa amin, I would want to put it to rest, if I may. We once asked him, we had the guts to ask him, or no, he was the one actually who told us. His secret for long life, of course, it was genes. And number 2, he has very strong legs. He has very strong legs. Yun yung sinasabi niya. I think he walked from Apari to Tuguegarao, which is almost 1,000 kilometers. Or more than 1,000 kilometers, because he had to do it during the time of the Japanese era. And he could not use the main roads. So I think you have already gone to Tuguegarao and traveled to Apari. If you use the main roads, it's 98 kilometers yata.
Nilakad niya yun.
Nilakad niya yun. Pero you have to remember na si boss, nung nagkikwento siya, hindi niya pwedeng gamitin yung main roads kasi mahuhuli sila ng hapon. So ang ginamit niya, yung mga sa likod, sa bundok, kaya memorize niya ang lahat ng bayan sa Cagayan kasi nilakad niya ng ilang beses. And it's because of that he had very strong legs. Of course, he made kwento of yung mga times na yun. He witnessed yung hapon nung naglanding sila. He saw them in the beaches. Then yung mga nagbebenta sa bakery ng mga kilala niya, nagulat na lang sila, hapon pala sila. Yung ganun ang mga kwento niya. Nakakatuwa na maalala yung mga ganung kwento niya. No? Of course, we're all very sad that he has already passed. But you have to admire JPE for his resilience, not only when he became JPE, but more so when he was not yet JPE. I mean, when he was a boy from the province and had not yet met his dad. If you would read his book, you would be able to really understand where he came from. And one of the stories that struck me most was when I was seated beside him and bigla siyang nagkwento when the first time that he met his father. Imagine this, that the first time he met his father, he had to go from the house of his
Stepfather.
half siblings, a father. Kasi he never met his father up to the time na nakapunta siya doon sa office. May crude map yung half-brother niya. Hindi kasama dun sa first family na to follow it to the letter. The map was very crude. It's not part of his book, pero kinento niya sa amin yun. And then, nung nakapunta siya doon sa building, it was the first time also na gumamit siya ng elevator. So, yung mga ganong kwento, no? And then, when he was there, nagpakilala siya doon sa law office, the secretary asked him to wait in a room. And then he waited for almost the whole day. And it was already evening. He really met his dad and talked to him in the first time. And when he met his dad, may lukso daw ng dugo. And then the father hugged him. And tinanong siya. The one thing that struck me was when his dad actually asked him, "What do you want of me?" Tell me what you want of me now, and that will be the end of it. So, if he was anyone else, I think most Filipinos or most of us would say, gusto ko ng pera, gusto ko ng trabaho, because those were the things that was needed during those times. I think it was already post-Japanese war, and his answer was very simple. I want an education. If I want a job, I will work for it, but I want an education. So,
kaya siya naging lawyer at kaya siya nakapag-aral na rin sa Harvard, where he took up his Master of Laws.
You have to remember that when he said that he was already, I think, 27 years old or in his 20s. So he went back to high school at his 20s. So imagine the humility in that. He knew what he had to do. He had to burn the midnight oil, and even if he was in his 20s already, and all of his classmates were of the same age. Back to second year high school, I think 27 or 28, 24 or 27. I may be wrong, but he was in his 20s, kinakwento niya, mahirap. But he had to burn the midnight oil, and he did what he had to do.
Well, Attorney, we do know, everybody's been saying that the late Senate President was a brilliant man. He was very sharp, and he played a crucial role in many pivotal moments in Philippine history. One of which is, yun nga po, no, he's been called in more controversial ways, the architect of martial law. Did he ever speak to you guys about that? Ano yung pagkwento niya dito? Some would say that he used his brilliance in, yun nga po, for more controversial means. And his defection back in the People Power Revolution actually gave the movement military weight. Kung dati, I mean, he worked as Defense Secretary, as Justice Secretary, as Finance Secretary under Marcos Sr. And then eventually, siya po ay sumama kay Fidel V. Ramos and led the People Power Revolution. Ano ang pagkwento niya sa inyo on this bit of or piece of Philippine history?
Well, two things. First, yung regarding dun sa sinasabing supposedly defection. Well, we never talked about it. Of course, if you had a boss like JP, you would not have the guts to
Really?
ask that question.
Why not?
It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Diba? Would you even imagine yourself? Imagine this. Imagine just, Ma'am Gretchen, imagine this. Even, I know of personal friends and relatives who are justices or people who's been in office, the highest office. They will not be in awe or even starstruck by anyone, but they will be starstruck by JPE. You could just imagine the steps he took while he was alive. Not only literally, but more or less figuratively, how he lived his life. So to even question the wisdom on how he did things, of course, would be a no-no for us. It's out of respect that we never ask.
So he
those
never
questions.
explained his role when it comes to martial law. Marami po nagsasabi na
I
sila
think,
po nag-draft niyan. Oo.
I think ang makakasagot dyan would be Yusek Rohel Gatchalian. He had more intimate times with
Okay.
him. That's number one. And then number two, or it would be Ma'am KPE herself.
Oo. And then another controversial piece in time, ito nga pong ambush na nangyari sa kanya noong 1972. At one point, inamin niya na ito ay isang palabas, pero binawi din niya. What was the truth to that? Would you know?
Yung ambush kasi I think hindi lang siya minsan na ambush eh. So if memory serves, hindi lang siya minsan na ambush. You have to understand na si Boss JPE, mahilig yan sa action. Pag nagkikwento yan sa amin, para kayo mga bata, parang lahat kami, mahilig pala talaga siya sa action. So he was an action man. Not only in the sense na mahilig sa action, sa trabaho and all. Yes, mahilig siya doon. But he was a man. He was a man's man. Na mahilig siya sa action, mahilig siya sa baril, mahilig siya sa hindi naman mahilig sa confrontation, But mahilig talaga siya sa action even in early in the 2022 and 2023. Mahilig pa rin talaga siya sa action. Pag nagkikwento siya, yes, he was ambushed not only once but also several times.
Really?
Yes. May mga kwento siya na ambush siya, and I think may also mga kwento siya na natamaan siya. If memory serves me right, na naikwento niya yon. So, I would want to believe na since naikwento niya sa amin yon, hindi pwede naman na naimbento yun kasi naikwento niya na at the age of 99 and 100.
But the specific one was the 1972 ambush, which triggered the declaration of martial law. Yung po, nakwento niya ba yun?
I think for a bit, yes, naikwento niya yon, pero hindi yun yung main na kwento. It was one of those matters na na-ambush lang siya, parang ganon. Yung sa several times. Kasi may mga times din na na-ambush siya na nabaril yung mga sasakyan and he was inside the car. Ganyan. So you have to remember during those times, uso kasi talaga ang ambush. At saka maraming, yun yung nung mga panahon na yun, I would not want to also imagine that I lived that. I'm not that old. So, as I was in grade school siguro, or even grade 2 or grade 3, I would already remember because my grandfather was also the mayor and we have uncles na mga judges also. So we were really into the news and we were the old people were talking about it. Pinag-uusapan yan nung time, naikwento yan ni Sir JPE, ni Boss JPE sa amin, pero hindi siya pumunta into detail. Iba yung mga ambush na pununta niya into detail. This one, because of the
Madami siyang kwento. Oo. Wait, attorney, many people see the late Juan Ponce Enrile as a man who evolved with the times. Others say he shifted alliances when necessary. From your experience, how did he choose these political alliances, and where exactly did his loyalties lie? I mean, if we talk about the man and his principles at ano po yung pinaglalaban niya across the political colors and political lines, how would you define that?
Well, I would want to say that he was always with the law and always with the country. He would always tell us, before anything else, you have to, if you're in public service, you have to work for the country and within the law. And when we were part of the Presidential Legal Counsel and him as the chief, he would always tell us that we are working here for the country, number one, for the people, for the government, but also to protect the president. So, for us, and he would always tell us that iisa lang ang aming kliyente. Ang kliyente lang namin si Presidente, kaya nga Presidential Legal Counsel. The whole team and Sir JPE only had one client, and that is the President. So, imagine everything na from lahat ng mga memoranda, tapos lahat ng mga kailangan pag-aralan, kami lahat nag-aaral dyan. Hindi naman 100%. So they have to remember also that the executive secretary is a former chief executive. So they would do the legal work also as well. But for Sir JPE, I think the most thing na kailangan natin maalala sa kanya na if the changing of times, yes, he evolved with it. He knew, we have to say na from the moment that he was part of Philippine history, si Sir JPE was his own man, but he believed in the law. He loved the law, and he would always tell us that before everything else, before all of this, he was a lawyer. And he loved being a lawyer to the last breath. He was a lawyer. He was a brilliant lawyer, and everybody can attest to that. Diba? Kahit nakakampi or hindi, they would always give him that and respect that he was a person, a lawyer with a gifted intellect.
What do you think made him so brilliant, and what did you learn about power and the way he dealt with it? Watching him, observing him, and how he deals with. Kasi yun nga po, no? I mean, to have a position is one thing, but to have real influence is another. And how did he get to that?
Well, I think he always knew what his role was. That is how brilliant he is. So if it was not his role, kahit na nung nasa office siya at pumapasok sa office, if there were matters that it was not within our jurisdiction and it was beyond his role, he would always say that, you give it to this department. Hindi natin trabaho yan, ipasa na yun sa iba. So, I think that is very important for him to know what his role, and he would always tell us, know what your role is. He always reminded us that there will be a life after Malacanang. There will be a life after Presidential Legal Counsel office. So after that, he would always tell us wherever we would go, kung saang department kayo mapupunta, if you would still be with the government, know your role. You work within the bounds of the law, and you do it as lawyers. For me, if there is one thing which was really striking through all of these years, was that his love for the law, and he knew what his role was. He would not encroach beyond what was asked of him. He would only act and react within the bounds and limits of his jurisdiction and his office. That is why I think he had a lot of offices that he held. Sometimes it was concurrent with each other, and sometimes it was only that office. But one thing remains, he never encroached on the act or within the jurisdiction of other secretaries. So that made him a team player as well.
Alam niya yung kanyang mga linya, no. Maraming salamat po sa inyo, no, for sharing the inner workings of his team right from his office. We have Assistant Presidential Legal Counsel Attorney Honorio Reyes III talking to us about the late Juan Ponce Enrile.